Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 244. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge on the comic forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. On this episode, we're talking about Thunder Agents. So says the sensei of the whatnot, Segulin, and the Duke of, Thunder! Thunder! He told me on the episode that I restrained myself from doing that, so I'm like, well, no, you're not. This episode, we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of comics, a lot of favorites, so please check the show notes. We're going to be talking about things like Birds of Prey, Thunder Agents, Superman, Brightest Day. We got a whole bunch of stuff that we're chatting about. We're also got a segment where we talk about some of the recent cancellations that were announced. So just something that I was kind of passionate about at the moment, so and I wanted to share with you, Jim, on the show to get your kind of gut instinct reaction on it. But I'm just doing some ranting and raving about that kind of stuff. It's always fun to talk about some things that are a little different off of the beaten path of the show. So, big episode with a lot of comic commentary on this one. Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, you can pick up Thunder Agents number 6, written by Nick Spencer with art by Cafu and Bit, cover by John Cassaday. The first arc of the series everyone's talking about comes to a dramatic conclusion as the Thunder Agents attempt to deal with the fallout from last issue's startling events. Featuring a thrilling, no-holds-barred battle royale between Thunder and Spider. It's an issue so fantastic you'll want to burn your copy, erase your own memory, and buy it all over again. Regularly $2.99, 40% off, only $1.79. We talk about Thunder Agents on this episode, and it's one of those new series that if you aren't picking it up, it's very different than any other comic team book. There's a lot of conspiracies and intrigue and espionage, and I love this, like, each member of the team is like this ticking time bomb where their powers are possibly bringing about their deaths. So it's kind of cool thing where you got to wonder what would motivate people to be a part of the Thunder Agents and how do they feel as time goes on being a member of this team? What will that do to them mentally? It's something that's just very different, and I'm really enjoying it so far. So, and also over at InStockTrades.com, you can pick up the Thunder Agents Archives. And for example, they've got Thunder Agents Archives Volume 2, which collects issues 5 through 7 of the original series, written by Wally Wood, Steve Skeets, and more, with art by Wally Wood, Steve Ditko, Reed Crandall, Mike Sikowski, George Tuska, Bill Pearson, and Dave Adkins, and many, many more. 224 pages, regularly $49.95, 38% off, only $30.97. And it's great. If you're looking for hardcovers, InStockTrades.com I can't recommend enough just because of the fact that you get those deals every single time. This is a 38% discount. And so go over to their site and check. It's great because if you get like a couple of those archives, you're getting free shipping too, because every order over $50 gives you free shipping. So check out InStockTrades.com. I want to thank DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support the show. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. I want to remind everyone to check out the Hero Initiative and, of course, CBLDF, the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. I'm a supporter of both organizations, and there's links on RagingBullets.com in the charities section, right on the right-hand side, that you can click on and join both of those organizations. If you especially with times being tough right now, if you're looking to donate and you're like, I don't have a lot of money, the cost of a comic book is something I always suggest. Just picking one periodically and just going over there and donating. It's helping yesterday's creators who need help today, and also helping the freedoms of the creators today to be able to pursue this industry. It's an artistic art form, and people should have the freedom of speech to be able to, of course, promote the type of comics that they want to put out there. And that's one of the great things about comics is they tend to keep pushing storytelling in new directions and trying new things. So I urge you to support both of those organizations. James, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plot line, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk comics.
There they are, all alone except for that old character.
I know we both wanted to talk about this most recent issue of Superman with Grounded. It's 708, J. Michael Straczynski with the plot, and Chris Robertson with the script. Eddie Barrows pencils, J.P. Mayer with Julio Ferreira. It's F-E-R-R-E-I-R-A, because I just butchered that. Those are the inkers. Rod Rice is the colorist. John J. Hill, letterer. John Cassaday and friend of the show David Barron on the cover. Trevor Hairsline and Val Staples on the variant cover. Will Moss, associate editor. Matt Idelson, editor. Superman, created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Wonder Woman, created by William Moulton Marston. And there's a reason why you have to mention Wonder Woman on this, because this is actually a pivotal issue, not just for Superman, but on the cover it labels it as guest starring Wonder Woman. It is the first time we see her interact with anybody from the current continuity DC universe. So we're seeing her and Superman now, and Superman does not know her.
Yeah, that was absolutely wonderful. Wonderful in that it finally gave me a concrete understanding of who she is, where she is, but concrete in that we still don't have all the details yet. But it does, does shed a lot of light, and of course got theories just flying through my head. And I was like, yes, this is good. This is something that I really needed from the Wonder Woman title. We're getting information now, who she is and how she fits into the whole mess and whatnot.
Now here's my take on this. This is either because the gods have changed the playing field, or Max Lord did.
I'm guessing Max Lord. My whole idea is that this is all because of the whole thing that Max Lord, when he made everyone forget him, he also twisted some stuff around on Wonder Woman.
So I'm going to be curious to see what happens with all this. And I get, okay, here's the real question then. Is Hippolyta really dead? If we go under the gods theory, and that the whole playing field's been changed, then there's a possibility that, yes, that actually did happen. And what we've seen with Hippolyta in Wonder Woman's book is legit. This is a new status quo that's coming in. On the flip side, if it's Max Lord, nothing can be taken at face value then. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's the Max Lord thing and we still have Hippolyta, and as the truth comes out, we'll start seeing different takes on everything, and we'll start getting back to the Diana that we know and understand with the Paradise Island, with everything. But to be honest, it could very easily be Column C. Something that we still haven't even completely seen yet, that we still don't know. It may not be one or two. Who knows what's going to happen? And that's, in a way, it does have me kind of like excited and curious. But in a way, I am like, come on, tell me already.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be interesting to see. I agree with you. It's that anticipation in me that wants to know, but I wouldn't be saying, come on, tell me already, if I didn't care. I do care about the story.
Oh, amen.
I'm going to say this, too. The costume's growing on me. Even without the coat. Remember I did my little ribbon rant about the yellow, gold ribbons around her arms and all that stuff, about how that was like enough already with those. I'm going to change my tune a little bit. I'm actually starting to dig the costume. I love the classic suit, so this isn't me saying, ooh, I prefer one or the other. I'm liking the new outfit, though. I don't know if that's going to stick or if they're going to go back to the classic, but for right now, what I'm seeing, I'm enjoying. So we'll see. I don't know if I want to, because I'm playing the DCU Online game, and they've got this really cool load screen with some great artwork featuring Wonder Woman on there in the classic suit, and I'm like, but that suit just works. But then I like the new one, too. Like, they have it's on the source right now. You can see a preview of the Wonder Woman statue with her in the new outfit, and I'm like, but that's a gorgeous statue with her in the new outfit. So I'm very torn, which is a good thing, in the sense that I like both of them, and I'm curious to see.
I'm starting to lean towards the new outfit, man, as to liking that over the classic outfit. Just, I don't know, I'm starting to, enjoy it more. I'm starting to, kind of get a connection. Like, it's actually kind of cool. It's a more practical, outfit, and I don't know. I think part of me would like to see some incorporation of the old and new together more, but I don't know. Because I do always like her in the battle armor. I do like her when she's, ready for combat like that. And with the new costume, how, you could put the armor over it, and but how would it really, look? And that's what I'm wondering on.
Let's talk about Clark and what's going on with him right now. We're getting now a real understanding that we didn't realize how much Clark was actually going through. There were things deep into his core that we didn't realize, the destruction of New Krypton, the birth of New Krypton, but the deaths that were associated with that, and then being torn between choosing between saving his birth people and standing behind his adopted people, really is something that caused a lot of turmoil in him. Trying to figure out now emotionally where he is at has left him vulnerable to an attack. Whereas he normally would have recovered from this and maybe grown stronger from it, this female that's following him, this creature, whatever she's doing to him, has taken advantage of that emotional weakness and made it foster, and potentially hurting and damaging the future. A future, and I love this indication that their future may or may not come to be.
Yeah.
They may, actually, in all this Superman squad that we're seeing coming in, this future gigantic legacy that he's talking about here, might not actually ever happen. I like that about time travel myself. We had that great talk with Freddie Williams II about timelines and, would that path still exist if the future doesn't happen? Would it become a side timeline, or would it simply cease to exist, overwritten by what was happening? It was funny how a lot of the discussion that she was portraying in this mirrored our discussion about how the various different ways all three of us saw time travel, and even Doc Brown from Back to the Future saw it. So it's kind of interesting timeliness-wise that this issue of Superman came out. I'm a fan of this kind of stuff because it makes your head hurt trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I like seeing all the different types of Supermen, and even as they started going into details, some who aren't even Kryptonian, we had the gorilla Superman, and the one who's so big that they can't, it's like the size of a planet. Then you got the microscopic one, who's, microscopic size, and just all the variations on what is and who will be Superman. Just, it's kind of a cool thing for me. It's like every hero will be Superman eventually, or be inspired by him, or wear the colors of him, and just that the big red S on the chest. It's always been a symbol of a hero, and I think that's just great to know that this future down the line. But it's, again, we're getting some cool human moments from Clark, with the doubt, and it does make me wonder how much of his emotional background, his emotional problems he's going through, are accentuated by what's her name, and how much of it is him, how much, where is going to be just the final battle? Is it going to be a physical battle? Is it going to be an emotional battle? Is it going to be a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B kind of deal? I'm really curious to see where Grounded Story takes Clark.
I think with what we saw with her in Wonder Woman, we're going to get your little bit of A and B. Because she obviously can handle herself physically. She tossed Diana. Yeah. And Diana at this point has gained back most, if not all, of her powers. At least that's the way I've been reading Wonder Woman right now, that we're getting to that point right now where, we've got a much tougher Wonder Woman back again. So we're seeing that this girl can hold her own. I love that the idea was she was putting Superman in a place where he had to make an impossible choice. He couldn't do both, and that choice would ultimately send him further down this path. Diana's being there at the right place in the right time ended up changing that for him. Ended up putting him in a position where he could accomplish through teaming up with her and through inspiring her to be a hero. Inspiring her the way that he inspired these future heroes. So the interaction that he had with them actually had a positive influence on him, where he's starting to become more of himself again, inspiring others. It's not always about Superman doing it himself. It's about Superman sometimes being that leader and inspiring others, and those people following him. And I would be a fan of, in this, the end result is that he overcomes it. He gets past it, and we get to see him rise up again, make things right with Lois, make things right with this. And, we get to see this man come out more powerful than he was going into the story. That, to me, is, if you're going to do this to Superman, that's what's got to happen at the end. We've got to see him at the end more powerful than he was when he walked in. And I want to see, part of the journey I want to see him beat this. And I want to see him do it like this. To me, this was the first opening salvo of him starting to beat it. So now I think it's time for a turnaround. let's see that process continue.
Oh, big time. And I tell you, when he arrives on the scene, I did kind of like when he's just looking, saying, okay, it's a traffic jam. They really don't need me. And then when the bus goes over the edge, he swoops in. And that was, I got a couple little cool geek out moments just watching it when he swoops in and just the way they did the color stream of just the red and blue kind of blur picking up the bus. And even when the people got saved, one guy goes, look, up in the sky. I always kind of like smile when they have moments like that. But, just going from that point on through, you start looking and you start seeing him, analyze what I got to do. And just the fact that Diana only saw herself as a warrior, never saw herself as a hero. And that notion, that concept just was kind of introduced in her psyche here saying, hey, I am a hero. I am, and that's always what, our Diana always saw her, she saw herself as, the protector of the innocent, the defender, that person who inspires humanity to do what's right kind of deal. And now this Diana is starting to get those concepts entered into her head. I thought that was a cool process. And I'm wondering with the connection in her title, if we're going to see results from this, because this looks like it pretty much was taking place right where the last title was kind of leaving off. So there's a strong, solid connection between, a flow-through kind of deal. So I'm wondering if maybe we're going to see a bit of Clark in her title, or if we're going to see references to this event kind of deal.
Did them meeting up cause a spark in each other that will reconnect them with who they are? In many ways. Is this spark that he did with her the same way that she did it with him, where she, in many ways provided him an opportunity to start to overcome this, and the way the Supermen from the future, especially the Bat Superman.
Yeah.
I loved all of them. I echo your sentiments. I loved seeing all the different kinds and where they came from. To me, it fits a lot of what I liked in All-Star Superman. When that book was kind of going through and showing us all the cool places and wacky places the Superman books are able to go. This fits that theme, and I loved that aspect of this issue as well. Just that feeling like, wow, cool, Superman has like this potential future that may or may not happen that's filled with all these amazing, like crazy twin Supermen and all that kind of cool stuff. But will this be a catalyst then for Diana to start reconnecting with who she really is? Will this be a chance for her to overcome, if it is Max Lord or the gods? In whichever case, will she be able to start seeing what is really happening to her? I do want to see her at some point in time reconnect.
Oh, yeah. We got to get, just that whole Diana, who she was, back into play. Even if they do retcon, even if they do change things around and we don't have Hippolyta, which I hope we still have Hippolyta, but if they decide to take things forward and not have her, I still want the same Diana. I still want that same where everybody knows who she is and whatnot.
Even if she's affected by what has happened here, in the sense that, there's legitimate ways that you could make the new outfit stick, in the sense that saying that this continuity did happen for her, but yet she's, dealing with two time streams. My thing is, I think we do need connections to things that happened to her before. Because I think there's a rich history there that you don't want to ignore, but yet you can do new things with her. So I don't know. I'm open-minded at the moment, because I can't really judge it. And we've said this with Wonder Woman. This is a big deal with this story. I can't really judge it until it's done, because I'm not quite sure what they're doing. It's a mystery. So until you see how the mystery plays out and what's actually happening to her, we could be wrong on both counts on what's happening here. I mean, the gods thing and Max Lord might not be the only two possibilities. There might be something else at play here that we don't quite realize, and, maybe that'll throw us for a loop. I don't know. I'm enjoying the ride right now. It's tentative, like it's been, but I'm glad I'm reading it. And I do think I'm not going to be able to judge this until the end. I think that until I see exactly what the big reveal is as far as this is what happened to her, because I do think there is a reveal to come. I don't think it's as simple as what we've seen so far. I think there's something that we don't know. I think a lot of these puzzle pieces are going to start to coming together in a way that we don't realize. I'm wondering if she's a much bigger player in things that we've seen than we know.
Yeah, there's the whatnot factor. There's that unknown that hasn't played out yet. That's definitely coming. And actually, probably with both Superman and Diana, there's still going to be one more little piece to it. And the thing I'm wondering is, a heart-to-heart conversation between Clark and Lois. Because they've had their moments already in Grounded, but there's never really that, just that the outpouring that Clark, he hasn't had that kind of like emotional release with his wife. And I'm wondering if that's something we're going to see, which, in a way you think about it, yeah, would that make an interesting comic book? I don't know. But for me, I would love to see just that a true relationship type moment between these two, because we know that they each equally trust, respect, admire, and just, love each other. And I think I'd like to see it, but I don't know if it would ever really play out well in a comic book.
Well, I think it has to happen to a certain extent, though, because of what we've already seen. She's right now like, what are you doing? And that has to be resolved at some point, one way or the other. So I don't know. I'm very curious to see where that goes. Because, she can't be left hanging and not knowing what's going on with him. Is he going to man up as he, gets reconnected with himself? Is she going to have another confrontation with him to further push him along the path? I don't know. I'm very curious to see where that goes. So, and are we going to see are we going to see Jimmy Olsen at some point? Any other Superman mainstays? I don't know. Or are they going to be kind of restricted back to Metropolis with what's going on with, like, Luthor, for example? Are we going to see them in Action Comics? Which would make sense considering he was a co-feature in Action Comics for a while there. I don't know.
I'm wondering about Bruce. Are we going to get a conversation between Bruce and Clark?
Oh, I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of like you almost need to, right?
Well, we already had Dick Grayson talk to him a little bit, but still, that was Dick Grayson, not Bruce. And I think we would need to see it. If we're seeing his interaction with Wonder Woman, I think we got to have just this moment between. And I actually would like to see Bruce as opposed to Batman. And, I would like to see a Bruce Clark moment as opposed to Batman and Clark and Batman and Superman kind of deal.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to keep the explanation that Bruce is so busy setting up Batman Inc. that he... I can't, you can't say on one level that Bruce is so busy with Batman Inc., but then say on the other level that he's trying to keep a kind of a radar on everything that's going on now with what he's doing. So how can he ignore this?
Yeah. The only way, and actually, as I'm talking, I'm thinking this through. The only thing I could think of is if he has a conversation with Grayson, and he's like, "Hey, I'm keeping an eye on Superman and kind of deal," and Bruce trusting Dick in handling that situation. Now, because of the close friendship between Clark and Bruce, I would think he wouldn't just have Dick handling it; he would have a personal touch in it. Plus, even a kinder, gentler Batman still has control issues. And something like, Superman being kind of a loose cannon and or acting differently is something that definitely would draw his attention.
Agreed. 100% agreed. So I don't know. I'm hoping we have an opportunity to see that. Do you think all of these things like Grounded and Wonder Woman and events we've seen like in Batman and Robin, for example, in the most recent issue, do you think they're linked and they're going to converge? Is this lady who's hounding Superman linked to are they all linked together in some way? Is there something bigger going on here, or do you think these are separate happenings?
I think these are all separate happenings. I don't see a big link picture between her and everything, her and, I think she and Superman are locked into a story arc, that Diana has her own separate thing, and Bruce and, Batman, Robin kind of deals have their own separate setups and whatnot.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking that is when we saw those white bats in the most recent issue of Batman and Robin, although, again, I'm making an assumption that that's tied to Brightest Day somehow, which doesn't necessarily mean that it is, so we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that one's going to be connected. Now, the big question is, Flashpoint. How will that affect everything? And that's I don't know.
On Smallville recently, here's something that was thrown on our Facebook page, and now I've seen pictures recently that looks like it's confirming it. Did you think that Lex Luthor is actually Connor Kent?
No, but you mention it. He could be.
I totally was disputing it because, the return of Michael Rosenbaum and stuff like that. But
yeah.
I guess I was assuming that the return of Michael Rosenbaum meant that this kid was going to grow into Michael Rosenbaum. What if he doesn't?
Oh, God, that'd be awesome if that's Connor.
So I don't know. I don't know where this is all going to go, but
well, you think about it, he is a clone of Lex and Clark's DNA, so you got that part done, and we've seen he's got abilities, or at least invulnerability, so yeah, I wonder if they would do that.
Well, and he is losing... Well, here's the thing. He's losing Lex's memories.
Yeah.
So if he's losing Lex's memories and he has a chance to have a clean slate now, can he be taken under Clark's wing, and can we see this kid become something more? And then Michael Rosenbaum come back as the true and real Lex. I guess I was assuming this kid was going to grow into Lex. Are those going to be separate happenings, or is this kid going to then go under a dark path again and become Lex? I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing out there, because I'll be honest with you, when I first heard it today, when he first threw the idea out, and then I saw a picture of this kid wearing the black T-shirt and all that, I saw the possibility that, well, maybe he's 100% right, and that it is going to be Connor Kent. So I don't know. I'm very open-minded. I kind of like that this is taking an interesting swerve that I didn't expect.
Nice.
So I don't know what direction it's going in, but I think that would be very cool, because I'd love to see that. So interesting. Jim, let's just kind of casually talk about Brightest Day number 19, the kickoff of Aqua War. This was something poor Myron had read this issue actually when we were last having our discussion with him, and you and I hadn't gotten it yet. So he had to kind of bite his tongue, and I get why. A lot of the stuff going on with Deadman here, where you see him crying, or a tear running down his eye, I should say, after the deaths of Hawkman and Hawkgirl. They were disintegrated and dissipated. And he's calling this White Lantern on it, saying, hey, what's going on here? Or this white entity on it. Because I guess I'm saying it's the Lantern, but it's really the entity talking through him and saying, what is the point of all this? You bring these people back. They fulfilled their purpose. They're somehow, everything's about this chosen one that's coming. It's leading me to believe more and more that the chosen one isn't necessarily going to be a good thing.
Yeah, you look at it because it said how it needs to, it's the whole tie into the planet, and, we've been destroying our planet kind of deal. And, okay, I get that. I understand that. And you look at some of the certain people, where they're brought in to, to move things in a certain way. But when they start referring to the Hawks, when they refer to, Firestorm and Aquaman, they're like, they have a different role kind of deal. And with Hawks, they had to get rid of the curse that's been following them, but because they weren't, they were still staying together, boom, they're gone. So I was just like, I was kind of like going along with this, and I had the same emotional reaction that Boston's having, going, hey, what the heck's going on here? And there's no choice. You have no choice in what's going on. This is the plan. Boom, no discussion. And it really got me wondering, what is this entity? Is this completely good? Is this something evil? I think what it is I don't think it's neither good nor evil. It's just what it is. Mm-hmm. It's the opposite of the dark, avatar that's coming, So it's, can you say it's good because it is life? Or is it, it's, I don't know, man. This has got me thinking and got me wondering.
And that is a powerful argument, because I guess maybe you're right. I'm looking too heavily for good and evil, where maybe I should be looking at bigger causes. Because you had similar things with the Monitor and Anti-Monitor back in the Crisis, for example, where, the Monitor, was he truly good? Was he truly, was the Anti-Monitor truly evil? I don't know. So there's some gray areas there. Now, okay, you and I have both done, gardening in the sense that we've taken care of lawns, we've, rototilled gardens, things like that. It's important to give back to the land, right, when you do that? What happens when you over-fertilize, Jim?
You kill it.
Right. Now, the Hawks. If you're going to disintegrate them to give them back to the Earth, Hawkman alone, his machismo, could fertilize many a planet. Doing this right now, I think this is going to kill the Earth and bring about the Dark Avatar. Because right now you've over-fertilized the planet. Maybe you should have used his big toe or something like that if you're going to really do this. Disintegrate his big toe and, take care of that. And if you've got to disintegrate them to do that, think smart and spread the rest out in the galaxy. I mean, what are you doing? So right now I think they've doomed our planet in this. And nobody's talking about this but me. And I just think I'm a little bit more enlightened when it comes to the Hawks and realizing the dangers of what this white entity has done in its obsession to stop the Dark Avatar.
So you're comparing the Hawks to manure.
Really good manure.
Oh, okay. The high grade, that fancy manure.
It's high octane manure, Jim. Okay, the stuff like it's not safe to put in your car unless it's been properly like you wouldn't put this in the back of the DeLorean from Back to the Future, in that garbage machine that was in there. No, it's too good for that. This is too rich. So a little too much. This is concentrated manure.
This is high energy, yeah.
Trying to recover that and failing miserably.
I know.
Aquaman. Oh, did I love this segment with him, seeing him with Aqualad. First of all, beautiful artwork. Again, showing how when you do Aquaman segments, they're going to look very different than segments with other heroes if drawn correctly. You can do some cool things artistically with this character and make him look really awesome. I'm going to be honest with you, with these cancellations of all these series, you got to have an Aquaman book. I'm dying for it. What about you?
Oh, amen. This is, when we first, as I said, a long time ago, when they first brought in Mira for Blackest Night, I was like, ooh, bring her into a series. And now we got Aquaman. I'm starting to really dig him. New Aqualad. He seems kind of cool to me. I definitely would follow a Under the Seas story arc. And I would say have it be all of them. Just dealing with the reconstruction of Atlantis and their people and understanding who and what they are and whatnot kind of deal. Just this whole exploration of who they are is, just a cool kind of notion. Plus, I like the little different concepts that affect in the under the seas environment, because when they're swimming and they got all the sharks after right behind them, I love the line where Aqualad asks him, "Hey, they're not going to eat us, are they?" He's like, "Not if you keep swimming faster than them." I thought that was a kind of a cool moment.
It's one of the great things that I love about this. You talked earlier about would you want to see a relationship issue with Clark and Lois? Well, this is a great example. I want to see Mira and Arthur's eventual confrontation. I want to see the two of them face to face with him dealing with the things that he's not right now. I think internally to a certain extent that he is, but I love that Aqualad's calling him on this and saying, "Hey, dude, have you forgiven her? What's going on here? Talk to me. I would be interested to." He's us. Yeah. I'm loving this kid because he's asking all the right questions and all the right beats. And I think, to me, a lot of times a sidekick, that's one of the roles of a well-written sidekick is when the hero is this intense, you need that sidekick to ask the right questions, to say the things that you want them to hear. Dick Grayson often provides this role with Damian. In a weird way, in a twist with Batman and Robin now. And I'm seeing the flip side with this Aqualad with Aquaman right now. When you were saying before having all of them in, and I think what you're meaning is the same thing I'm thinking, Aquagirl as well, Mira, Aqualad, Arthur, the Atlanteans, but also on land, doing kind of the whole flavor thing of what you can do with the Aqua books. And I would love to see that. I think it'd be like a team book. I used to be a fan of Team Arrow. I could see this being that kind of book where, all these characters matter and you can focus and spotlight each one as needed. More Aquaman now, please. And the Brightest Day's not even over, but these spotlight issues with him, I think, are just stunning. And the artwork on this one in particular was great. Like the segment where the two of them, after they finally get to land and they come to the realization that we're too late, the attack's already begun. That look on his face when he says no, and that close-up shot of Aquaman's face, what a beautiful piece of artwork that is. Because you see him reaching behind himself while he's doing that without even missing a beat for his staff, which was previously on his back. He's reaching behind him and showing that he is a veteran. He's ready for battle. And that beautiful kill them all sequence when they're coming out of the water and you get to see exactly the forces and the odds that they're against as they've got to try and defend the land from these people. Just what an amazing sequence of events leading to a battle that showcases what's cool about Aquaman. And the fact that he is a hero, trying to save people while trying to fight a battle. And how being a hero is difficult in that end. Because if you can just concentrate on your opponent and not worry about casualties, your odds are much higher. He's actually putting himself at risk by protecting these people. And Aqualad's being put at risk by protecting these people. And that's something where that sense of danger adds to my sense of what it means to be a hero. That sense that not only are we going to help defend them and try to minimize the casualties, but we are also going to try and do what we can to protect along the way. A lot harder to protect than to fight, because it's a different kind of battle when you're worried about protecting others. It's a lot of times why your heroes will try to take the opponents elsewhere. You can't do it with these kind of numbers. He's trapped at this moment. So your only option is to try and protect while you fight. And it made for a very realistic, very cool battle in the way that it played out in the sequence of events for me. And it was something that I thought the creative team did a fantastic job of showcasing the difference here between this and another battle that you might see between these same heroes and villains without civilians present.
Yeah. Speaking of art sequences and art, layouts and just the image, there's two things that I really, really enjoyed was, some of the facial close-ups of Aqualad while he was swimming. You get to see the gills popping out and just, kind of the whole with the web fingers and just a little bit. He's different appearance than Aquaman has. He has his own little take and his own little thing because he's not exactly the same people as Aquaman. So he's going to have a little different appearance. But that scene where, when Jackson just knuckles up and he's like, okay, this is real, Jackson. This is life or in death. So do something about it. And he just goes on the offensive right then and there. That cool close-up of him, you kind of see the energy, going between his two eyes as he's, is powering up and getting ready to rock and roll. I thought that was a cool kind of moment. And then just he dives right into battle and just starts, going after and, hack and slash kind of deal. I really like that.
Now, talking about manure. Was it really necessary for Hawkman and Hawkgirl to die when Aquaman's hand, which is very macho at the moment, could have fed the Earth? I did not see that coming, which I guess but I'm like, maybe I should have? I did not see that he'd be losing his hand.
Again.
Yeah, I'm like, really? This whole the fate of Aquaman thing with that being the closing tab, and I know we probably might have some more things to discuss prior to that, but this whole fate of Aquaman thing, do you think we are going to see another death? Would that happen in this? Are we going to see more than the Hawks taken away from us in this sequence of events?
I hope not. But there's definite possibilities of that happening, because even when Boston was talking to the entity saying, hey, does this mean the others are going to die? And he's like, we'll see. Everything will happen according to the plan, but he's not giving out what the plan actually is. So we could very easily lose Aquaman at the end of this, and I'd probably be kind of miffed unless we got further adventures of Mira, definitely some further stuff with Aqualad, but I really do want to see more Aquaman. I want to see an Under the Seas kind of adventure. And, when he lost his hand, I was like, I was kind of glad because I really like that hook look on him. I thought that was a really cool looking thing. So I'm hoping they bring back the hook hand and not the water hand, because yeah, okay, I'm sure the water had some neat properties to it and whatnot, but I thought he had just a more hardcore look with that hook.
You can't see me in the background, but in the last page, behind Black Mana's leg, if you look really carefully in the distance, you're going to see me rushing my hands through the water trying to get his hand. Because, as a comic geek, that's like gold. And yes, I would bag and board it. But here's the thing: if he were to die there, first of all, I'm 100% not convinced the Hawks are done for. If Aquaman I don't think any death here of the good guys. I don't think Aquaman was brought back to die permanently.
Right.
If there's a plan afoot, and I guess that's why I'm saying, at the end, is there going to be, after everything comes to fruition, if the white entity wins, the white entity could return them to life permanently. That doesn't have to be permanent. Like, I do believe the white entity could bring back Hawkman and Hawkgirl, right?
I'm assuming. It's kind of like he took it away, he could bring it back.
I'm not saying like that it has an unlimited or should have an unlimited ability to bring back anybody and everybody, but I'm assuming out of the heroes that are playing, you know who we're also missing at this point that we haven't seen a lot of recently? Martian Manhunter. What is going on with him?
Yeah.
You know, we saw him in the forest recently with Green Arrow. I think that was the last time we saw him, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on with him at the moment. But Brightest Day is just a great story. I don't know. I do like this sense of danger that I feel, though, for Aquaman and for the Hawks and for everybody. It's I guess I was assuming from the beginning that they were all back, so that made them safe. Now that I'm realizing that may not necessarily be the case, it's adding a little sense of intrigue to, like, him losing his hand right there. I'm like, oh, that's not so good. I do think here's the wild card. We don't know where Mira and Aquagirl are at the moment. I'm assuming that we're going to see a save on the next issue.
Yeah, that's got to happen. I'd be shocked if it wasn't, Mira or Aqua, girl blasting Black Manta right before you can drive, the knife into the back.
Or Aqualad standing against his dad.
Yeah, that could happen as well. But I see him more busy in combat elsewhere. I don't think he'll be able to do the save. I'm thinking Mira and or Aquagirl will come in for the save on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily have a preference because I know she was pleading with not pleading with Aquagirl, but going to her for support and saying, hey, you got to help me with this. So I don't know. It's interesting. Brightest Day. I'm going to be sad to see this end because I've been enjoying the ride. Because it's soon, isn't it? It's in the 20s, early 20s.
Well, this is 19.
No, I'm saying as far as the ending of it. I think it's, is it 24 that it ends, or 22?
I think so.
So it's somewhere around, it's ending soon. It's a series that I've been really digging and enjoying. I guess I've been feeling like this is just an ongoing, and it's just going to keep going.
I'd like for it to be honest with you. After Brightest Day is done, continue the adventures of the heroes that are in here, and let's just keep going with it.
That's interesting. It's funny when you say it that way. I kind of like it's a perfect marriage of these heroes where you can just kind of flip-flop and it's kind of like a team book that's not a team book. You don't have to team them up, just showcase and spotlight them from time to time. It's a different way of looking at the concept of an anthology. And maybe that's the way instead of... great example when we talked about some of the books that have been canceled. When we're taking a look at the ones that are going to be canceled down the road, maybe this is a solution for some of those titles to, put some of those teams together in a title where you just kind of make a DC Universe book where the creative team has the ability to play with characters who aren't currently in their own series. Like, that'd be kind of a cool monthly. Yeah. DC Universe. Just call it DC Universe. And, editorial works with the other editorial teams to kind of say, hey, here's a whole bunch of characters that really just aren't being used. And we're going to spotlight and showcase, have some main players who just regularly reoccur in this series. And, as if they spin off into their own book, we'll spotlight and showcase other people. Because there's a lot of players that you can't give everybody their own title, but maybe that's a way to see what characters stick. Just have an ongoing DC Universe title that isn't, maybe not an anthology. I keep saying anthology. If we're saying those don't do well, this did. Do this. And just have like a whole issue that supports, and maybe every so often have a single issue that kind of sets up things. Where you have little short pages with characters, but then play them out in bigger stories later, like this did. Because that's what this did in the beginning, and it worked. And you could periodically do that to change up the status quo or change up the direction of the series. I would love to read a DC Universe ongoing where it did that.
Amen.
I think it's kind of a good way to handle the fact that how do we launch and see who people are interested in see spin off into their own series? Maybe that's a way to experiment with that. And, maybe give each creative team a year on the book. In the sense, or more, if you find some great ongoing creative teams that want to do it, keep this creative team on it. If they have the time to do it. But if not them, maybe give the creative team, you're going to do a year. This is going to be the book, and here's characters that are available to you, and come up with your story and go with it and let us know. And then we can tie it into the main universe somehow and just have a good time with it. I don't know. I think that's kind of a fun way to explore something like this. So I'd love to see it.
Nothing like the handy-dandy electro claw for carving through metal doors.
This is Flash number 9, Jim, The Road to Flashpoint. And this is interesting because this issue, first of all, it's by Jeff Johns, artist Francis Manapul, colorist Brian Buccellato, and I apologize for butchering that, letterer Sal Cipriano, cover by Manapul and Buccellato, a variant cover by Tyler Kirkham, Bat, and Nei Ruffino, editors Adam Schlagman and Eddie Berganza. And, this is an important issue because it starts to lay out some interesting possibilities about what's going to happen in Flashpoint, or what's going to lead to Flashpoint. This idea that things might be getting a little wonky. And we see it first from this being that citizens step out of the street. And we see this motorcycle come in. I did not see this being who it is. Can we just go to that?
Oh, big time. Complete shock. Like, huh?
It's Barry. No matter the cost, I need fuel and I need to find Barry Allen. So it's Barry Allen seeking out Barry Allen. Why? Is this Barry Allen from our timeline? Or is this Barry Allen from an alternate timeline? I don't know. Because, the real possibility is, does this pivotal event lead to an alternate timeline? Because I really get the idea that Barry's not that old, that much older than this Barry. So I don't know.
Well, when you're dealing with just the time travel type of deal and, people who are able to pull themselves out of time, this Barry could be 1 year older than our current Barry. And just because of the fact that he's jumping around through time, he's really not aging. So who knows? He's from the future, but he may not have been naturally born into the future. It may have been a pop, to the future.
Big Belly Burgers, that's on the first page. That's in the DCU Online game. You actually see Big Belly Burgers popping up from time to time. Also, that coffee place, the $1 Coffee, those are in DC Universe Online. So when you're running through the streets, or flying through the streets, or doing the acrobats, whatever travel method you're using, you actually get to see some of these chains of restaurants that pop up in the DC universe from time to time. So it's just thought it was kind of a cool point to say that a lot of this matches the comic books when we're in there. I do like the bike design is very cool.
Yeah. And that looks to me like it's riding on Speed Force.
Yeah. But he doesn't have it.
That's the thing. Maybe he either transferred it to it. Maybe he lost his power. Maybe who knows the what behind it. Maybe this Barry Allen never became the Flash, never had the accident. Because
he needed to drive over the window to tap into the Speed Force from Barry Allen. When he rides over the window in that sequence, the rider, you saw the reaction from Barry. He actually tapped into Speed Force from Barry, our Barry, to fuel the bike. So he's not fueling the bike. He needed Barry Allen to fuel it. Do you see that sequence? That's what's happening there? So going over that window was not an accident. He did that because he needed to seek out Barry to fuel the bike. Why?
Well, and if you look at that side shot of the bike, you can kind of see where the engine is. That's probably where the storage of the Speed Force kind of deal is.
So we're setting up a whole interesting thing here. Jumping back a little bit, I loved the whole, Barry's searching this crime scene for this, what looks like, it appears to be an old man, but we find it's actually a young kid. And it's this elongated kid. He has to figure out now what has happened to this guy. So this crime scene has become pivotal because it's a cape. What could do this to him? What could age him like this? Sets up a mystery to the point where he's, especially now with reconnecting, the whole entire family is, the Flash family is at the park. And, that's Max, right, on the grill?
Yeah.
And then we have, Wally's 2 kids, and Wally and Bart are there. Everybody. Linda's there. And his wife. And this pivotal moment that he's missing is because of a cape dying. And it's disconnecting him in many ways. So I don't know if that's going to play off later.
And I like the fact that the commentary they made where he called her on the phone, and she's like, hey, you could have run here faster than calling me. What's going on? And she even kind of says, hey, there's something not going on here. And I like the fact that, again, a husband and wife kind of calling each other on stuff. So that, we've seen a disconnect from Barry, and we thought he was kind of working through it, but there's still issues going on in his mind that he's got to get a better groove of where he is and who he is and what's going on now.
You know what gives me hope? Is talking to Iris. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but you were talking about this, and I think you're hitting on something pivotal here. He's disconnected, yes, but then there are moments where he is reconnected. Because he's telling her now. You know, I keep thinking of that mirror the Rogue shattered last week. The one where you saw your mother? I saw her alive and well, Iris. Not in the past, but in the present. I saw what should have been if it hadn't been for the Reverse Flash. He murdered my mom and framed my dad for it. She died on the living room floor of our house, and my father died in a prison cell, but they didn't have to. They should both be there with you and Wally and the kids. I know they should be, Barry, but so should you. It just feels wrong. So this is something that's haunting him, but he's talking to Iris. And I think that's showing the connection between the two of them, that in spite of this disconnect that he's having, he is reaching out to, when she reaches out to him, he's reaching back. So I do think what we are seeing here is, yes, we're seeing somebody who's haunted and challenged, but he's not totally closing himself off. And I think those moments, you were talking about relationship moments earlier, we are seeing this here with Barry and Iris, and I liked that moment because it showed me I would be a lot more upset if he wasn't communicating with her right now. Because I don't want to see that with every single hero. I want to see what works with these two. And if there's one person Barry's going to confide in, it should be Iris. And he's doing that here. So it does give me some hope for them. I'm just hoping that there's not negative ramifications down the road for the two of them because of this. I'm hoping that they grow closer because of it instead of apart. And I think we're going to see that.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I think, it's whenever you guys were always talking about, like, with the Speed Force and how it was affecting everybody, like Wally had his connection that always kept, Linda who kept pulling him back. So for in the Flash family, they always seem to have that connection. They always seem to have that rooted anchor point. And it's something I'm noticing with all of them. You pick any of the speedsters, they always have that one focus, that one concentration point. And I do like seeing the interaction, between, Barry and, Iris. And I think, I don't know, it's another one of those, I'm not 100% certain on who this guy is. I'm still learning his character, still learning his traits, still learning about him. And that's, in a way, is something I'm enjoying about the Flash series, that I'm getting to see this new hero. But in a way, I am wondering, I want to know the truth now. I want to know, and I'm getting giddy like a kid, where I just want the ending now. Just give me the ending. And I'm like,
you're like the guy at the con that walks up to the kid. Can you just tell me what's going to happen?
Exactly. I'm that guy right now when it comes to this whole Flash story. And I don't really want to know.
You're supposed to feel like that.
Yeah.
And I like that. That's a strong emotion. It's a good emotion, and you should feel like that. And I think that's very, very cool. This is a sign of good writing, because to me, if you're going to do a marriage in a comic and do it right, you're going to show that there's ups and downs, and there are those moments where in the relationship the couple has to have those tough conversations, and they're not always going to be good, but they work through things together. Sometimes you're going to distance yourself from your spouse, and you've got a good couple is going to come back together through that. That's going to be the person you wind up confiding in, and that person's going to listen, and they're going to offer advice, or sometimes just be there to offer support and a shoulder. And this is, to me, it's a very realistic example of a marriage. And the argument sometimes that, well, people who aren't married can't relate to that. Yes, you can, because anybody who's been in a relationship, whether you've got a girlfriend, whatever, or a boyfriend, depending if you're for our female listeners, whatever, or, the various different types of relationships you can have out there. Everybody's had this, even with friends, close friends, where you have those moments where you're at your darkest and you have that person you can confide in. So I do think well-written relationships can work. I don't want to see every hero married, but the ones that are, it's fun to see some exploration of how one marriage can be different than the other because they're different people. Barry Allen and Iris Allen are very different than Clark and Lois. Yes, they're both, they've characters, strong characters. They're couples of strong character, but they're different people. So the way that their relationship plays out and the way they're going to handle it is going to be very different. And I liked seeing that here. I liked feeling like Barry and Iris were different than what we're seeing Clark and Lois go through in Grounded. Two different kinds of disconnects with two different kinds of conversations going on. These two are a lot more confiding in each other right now in a way that Clark and Lois aren't able to because of what poor Clark's going through at the moment.
Yeah, the one thing I really liked about this was just a little something I always wondered about, and they answered it here with that jingled that makes people a little more malleable. Why doesn't everybody get their hands on some and they have the elastic powers? Well, here they explain it. It's poisonous to most people, but the rare few that are exposed to it and survive experience the change. I thought that was a cool point to note in there because you think about it, if all it takes is drinking that stuff and you could, be elastic, there would be a lot more people doing it on both good and bad side. Yeah. If you're a villain and you become this malleable person, bullets, everything just bounce off you, and just the whole, just the whole idea of how you can get away from any type of situation and break into, banks and vaults and whatnot, that would be a great thing for them to do. Well, here's the catch. You may die if you try it. So I love seeing that in there.
Another interesting indicator that this Barry doesn't have powers. We see the Flashes talk all the time when they're running at super speed, communicating with each other. Mm-hmm. This one can't hear Barry because the words didn't catch up to him. It's interesting that their sense of awareness of each other is going to be very different because this Barry doesn't have powers. So I thought that was interesting because we were moving faster than the speed of sound, so your voice never caught up with me. I couldn't hear you. But that wouldn't have happened if he was running with Wally. They talk all the time.
Well, I think it's a connection of, the force and whatnot between them. Because in a way, I liked the fact that he couldn't hear, and I didn't even think of it, the fact that he didn't have the powers or anything like that. So and it was funny because the first time I was reading this, I didn't think it was going to be Barry, but part of me wondered if it was going to be either like Wally or one of his kids grown up. Mm-hmm. Because especially that earlier scene in the picnic, you see Jay just up against the tree playing the video game. And, and I always wonder what's going on through his head since he's lost all his powers.
That's interesting. Yeah, I want to know more about the kid. That's why what is it, Speed Force thing is the name of the series that's going to be kicking. I'm excited to see more of the Flash family post-Flashpoint. Like little getting to know them, kind of the way we do with Green Lantern Corps. There's definitely room for that book. So, because we're losing some team books, I'm anxious to see another team book and be able to follow that. Talk about the visuals. See that stop before I make you stop?
Yeah.
Take a look at the Speed Force all around Barry, then the Speed Force all around the bike. It's not around the other Barry.
No.
Very different, and I'm complimenting the artwork on that because it is around though the tires and the bottom of the bike.
Yeah, that's central battery engine kind of deal. It looks like it's actually pulling more from Barry as he's running along with him.
Yeah. So it's kind of a very cool visual element to give us a cue as to what's going on there. And that's an art detail that I really appreciated because when I did my second read through, I'm like, oh wait a minute. Dude doesn't have any powers. Yeah. It's all the bike. So this is the scientist who crafted this. And did he craft it this way because he never was able to connect to the Speed Force himself? Because that never happened to him? Or is it because he lost his powers? Or what happened here? So I don't know.
I'm leaning towards he never got his powers. There was never the accident that made him the Flash. And he probably was exposed to Zoom for some reason, because I'm thinking Zoom's going through changing the past, and this Barry, became identified with the Speed Force as the scientist, as the understanding, and that's where the whole bike and he's able to tap into it kind of deal comes from.
Yeah, that was cool.
And it's funny, I am kind of surprised that they showed us who the writer is this early in the game. I'm glad they did, but I am surprised.
But I think that's barely a hint at what's really going on. I think that was meant to get us excited in anticipation for what this all really means. Because if he's here, why is he here? And I think that's the real question at the moment, is not the identity of the writer, but what does that mean? Because that changes everything. Him in that position, him in that outfit, him without the powers. What does that mean? And, what does that mean for our Barry? Is our Barry going to be able to go to his world? So I don't know.
His world, our world.
Yeah. Well, I think we're getting the answer to that from Flashpoint. It's not a hoax or anything. It is our world. That's the tagline of the whole thing, right? So I don't know. You know, it's a great way to build excitement, and it's working for me. Jim, can we talk a little Birds of Prey?
Oh, definitely talk a little. Let's talk a lot Birds of Prey, because, again, this was just a wonderful, wonderful issue.
You know what? It's Gail Simone writer, Inaki Miranda, and I apologize if I butchered that, on the artist, Nia Ruffino colorist, Dave Sharp letterer, Stanley Artgerm Lau is on the covers, Katie Kubert is the assistant editor, or associate editor, and I apologize on that one, and Janelle Siegel is the editor. And this is part 3 of the 4-part Death of Oracle. And it was funny, when I opened up the page, I'm like, what? Why is she in her old outfit? Then I'm reading the lines, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, we're inside her head.
Yeah, that's Mom.
Yeah, how cool was that to see Mom back again and see what Black Canary was going through? I'm a big fan of experiencing things with a character, where you're pulled into the story because you're taking that journey and ride along with them and seeing them try to overcome. And seeing that their experiences that they've gone through in the past have somehow made them strong enough to overcome something, which is a lot of what we're seeing here. And that's what I really loved about this moment, because we're seeing her haunted by every possible thing, you know, from Mom to Dad to Roy, you know, straight on through to Ollie and Sin even. And I loved seeing these segments. You know, this being is able to put her in a place where every doubt, every fear, every sense of failure that we all feel, because we all have those moments where, you know, even if we survive some form of experience in our life, or we live through it and we move on, there's still those scars that are in place from it. We grow stronger because of them, but the scars are still there. You know, we just get better at, you know, making ourselves strong enough to deal with those scars. And I love that about this moment, because I'm like, oh, I can so identify with this. You know, there's multiple times in my life where there's things to this day that I still am able to look back on and go, geez, if I'd handled that differently, or maybe if I turned this path differently, you know, I would be in a place right now where I'd probably still be where I am at the moment, but I'd feel better about how that experience went.
I really loved just kind of the quick kind of playthrough, but it wasn't really, I don't want to say it was like a flash in a pan kind of thing, but it did a nice flow through a couple pages covering the really big hits. Just letting you know she's going through the ringer. She's, you know, being tortured to go from Mom to Dad to Roy to Ollie to Sin, and just the big pieces of her, you know, of what is going on with her. And then it ends up, after you see inside the story, you see her outside with, you know, with Bruce looking over her, kind of seeing if she's stable and whatnot, trying to do his thing. Just the look on her face when she's in that coma was just something I was like, dang, that's a beautiful, beautiful setup. That whole, you can tell she's being tortured. You can tell there's pain going on, you know, just in the current real world. You know, and we, of course, in the reader know what she's going through, but the heroes are just left with that image, and that's what they have to deal with. I thought that was a beautiful playthrough of showing, you know, all of the pain she's going through. You know, especially we, the reader, we know exactly where it's torturing her, but it didn't completely play out for all of us who know the story. It wasn't like a constant repeating of the story over and over again. No, you let us know. Boom, back to the present day, boom, on to the continuation of the story. I love just the playthrough and the flow through and the pacing of these initial opening pages of this issue.
To tell how bad it is what she's going through, we saw her in previous issues go through this intensity with White Canary, both in the physical battle and then the aftermath of that led to a potential battle with then Lady Shiva. In all of that circumstance, we never saw her going through this type of emotional torture, this type of emotional trauma. We saw, you know, things get very grim. We saw her come up with a determined plan on how she was going to handle it, to the point where she got cold from it, but never this type of intense emotional trauma. I loved the visual distinction there. That really worked well in those sequences of events, because you really see her in a place that we're not used to seeing Black Canary in. Way back when, in the previous series, when Savant was torturing her, before Savant became part of Team Birds, we didn't see her go through this. This is a place we're not accustomed to seeing Black Canary in, because she's been through so much in her life. In Green Arrow, way back when Mike Grell was doing it, we've seen this poor woman go through a much. don't remember. Maybe back then we saw her in this place. Not quite on this level. And it just shows how much emotionally getting hit with everything, every scar, can do to you. It actually added more to the respect for me when she comes out of it. If you truly believe she's going through something this horrible, to see her beat it was, to me, whoa.
Yeah.
You sit there and say to yourself, I don't know that I could do that. And that was something I particularly appreciated. Then the twist on this whole thing that I'm like, wait a minute, there is more members of the team. Because I was so focused on her. I'm like, meanwhile, and we've got, Lady Blackhawk, Dove, and Huntress in this moment. And Dove's trying to pass herself off as Oracle, which is, I guess, was part of the initial plan to begin with.
Yeah, they're definitely kind of doing improvisation off of the original plan. And you like seeing that in your heroes where the plan doesn't completely go the way you want it to. Okay, plan B, improvise, kind of modify and go with what you know is going to happen, what you hope is going to happen, and just kind of deal that way. I like seeing that, again, heroes need to think on their feet, and I like seeing them do this.
The bit here with Lady Blackhawk. Well, now looky here. Hitting a handcuffed woman. And she goes through that whole bit where she's insulting him, but then at the end where she gets this determination. And this is something that the power in that moment is something where I love when we see this out of Lady Blackhawk. Because, she's fun. She can be exciting when you see her, like in those moments where they're down at a club or something like that afterwards, and you get to see her kind of relax and be herself, and you can see that she can be the life of the party and all that. But there's these moments where you remember just how tough she is. She doesn't have powers. You look like you're fixing to try that again, mister. Let me just say this friendly thing, all right? It ain't smart to hit a Blackhawk once. And in that moment, you see the look on his face? That was absolutely priceless to me. This is something I absolutely adore about this book. Because you go through this great emotional drama that we're seeing in the beginning of it, but then you hit this moment right here. It's pivotal to me. I'm like, whoa. And this is what Birds of Prey is all about. You remember, these women are seasoned, all in their way, through very different experiences. They're all seasoned veterans. And they're all bringing something different to the table. Even Dove. Dove is a seasoned veteran as well. She's been around for a long time. So these are just great, strong, well-developed characters over time who each, because of their own different experiences, have their own strengths, have their own scars, and they connect over those things. And the trust that they've built over each other and being able to share that, I think being together, they make each other stronger. That these people accept them for who they are with all their strengths and all their faults, and it makes them feel better about themselves. It makes them have that extra adrenaline surge when they get in these moments to say, in this moment, I'm here with my friends, and we can do this thing. We can make this happen. Things look bad. This is not how we plan for things. You talked about improvisation. This is not how we plan for things to go down. But let's try to get this train that's derailed back on the track. And I loved the feel of this sequence of events here, where they know what's at stake, and they're doing everything they can to make it play out the way that they intended. It's cool.
And I tell you, when you just talk about that scene with Blackhawk, again, this is one of those art moments where the art and the written word just have a great meshing, because just that look, the steel look in her eyes, because with the she's got the bright blue eyes, but there's still just that power and just that I just messed up kind of look on his face. The next panel, that whole cowardly type of bully type of deal. He's up against somebody, and then even after that, he's like, hey, if there's trouble, let me ice the blonde. Yeah, sure, buddy. You ain't taking her down. And part of me is hoping we do get to see that fight, of her just, laying the smackdown on this dude, because he's got electric power. Yeah, he's got some voltage, and he's got some whatever, whether he's meta or costume or whatnot. But in this case, I'm putting all my money on her just because of, there's a level, powers only get you so far. It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. And especially in this situation, she's a scrapper. She's going to take the guy. And it's one of those things where you see this part in a comic, you're like, oh God, please give me this fight. Please let me see her just lay the smackdown on this guy.
I like when we see Oracle and Hawk together. that a lot of what we've seen, with his demons of, having to save Dawn and knowing that could mean his own death, trying to save her at that moment. It's a pivotal moment for him because he's got to make that decision, when is the right time for me to do that? Will I be there at that moment? Because he doesn't know when this is going to happen. He just knows what he's supposed to do. But how is that going to play out? Especially when he doesn't know where she is. So his intense focus on needing to know where she is so fit what we've seen from him. And I love that little attention to detail. He's like, okay, I need to be with her. So I understand, you're doing your own little thing here, and that's all well and fine and great, but you need to tell me where she is now, to the point where he's willing to throw down with Batman. And there's actually great attention to detail with how different Bruce is at the moment. Because I think Bruce in the past would have handled this slightly differently. Still, he's still as much as intimidating as Batman normally is, as Bruce normally is. But we've shown a little bit of an evolution of Bruce in Batman Inc. And this doesn't ignore that. Especially in the amount of times in this that he's deferred to Oracle and trusted her. That's where I say there's an evolution in Bruce, that he's willing to trust those allies that have earned trust. And there's a distinction there. Oracle has certainly, more than anyone, earned Bruce's trust. And I love that. I love seeing those moments, because to me, it ups her cred to see those moments. Where she's the one handling Hawk now. And if anything, this is a Bruce who's recognizing, I think to a certain extent, that she needs to be the one to handle this situation because this is her team. If he handles it, which we know he can, it defeats her role. It takes down her game plan. So he's respecting that she's playing a game here and that she knows what she's doing. I think there's something a lot is being said in those panels that aren't necessarily being, that's not being explicitly spelled out, I should say. And I love that. I love where it's kind of, we're not insulting the intelligence of our readers. I'm going to let you kind of make your own judgment calls on what's happening here. And I like that. You don't need to tell me every little tiny detail. I can figure it out from your action and drama, or make my own interpretations of it. Because I could be reading certain things into that weren't necessarily intended. And that's cool to me too, where maybe because I'm reading the other Batman books, I'm making connections here, but because the character's being written so consistently, I'm just making those connections because of it. And I love that, and I eat that up as well.
Yeah, I liked, with these sequencing, and just everything we've seen with Batman so far. He's been playing, as you said, he's playing the backseat to Oracle, and that's a great thing to show him as this kinder, gentler, more understanding Batman. But even these sequences with him and, Dinah, when he's first carrying her in, he's like talking to her saying, hey, you're going up against the fight of the darkness. Don't give in to the darkness. Fight this kind of deal. Just Bruce giving, kind of a pep talk, unknown if she can even hear him or not. And then even throughout these, in the sequencing, when Hawk's throwing punches, he's just avoiding them. He's not engaging Hawk. He's not fighting Hawk. He's letting Barbara deal with it. And I thought that was just a great knowledge and understanding of who Bruce is. Because throughout the Birds of Prey, with Barbara just, speaking about Bruce, she's always had that connection and that understanding and just that respect and admiration. When I remember when she was first in the Batcave, and she was saying how the Batcave was wheelchair accessible, and she's like, no, that was Bruce who did that. And they showed him kind of giving her that pep talk when she was lying in the hospital bed, not letting her quit, not letting her just give in to the injury kind of stuff, where he was, again, there for her. I think this has just been a nice, consistent play of Bruce, and I'm enjoying seeing him in this title.
Yeah, I am too. It's something that Dick Grayson, 99, on our forums, was asking why Bruce and why not Dick Grayson. This is why Bruce in this particular sequence of events and not Dick Grayson. It's not about her not acknowledging that Dick Grayson's Batman. It's about us seeing how Bruce's relationship is with Barbara. How much does he respect her that he would do this? This is a man who's very used to being in control and not liking to give up that control. And he's evolved to the point where he's recognizing with Batman Incorporated that there is a need to trust Dick Grayson enough to give Dick Grayson the control of Gotham, knowing that Dick Grayson can handle that role. Barbara Gordon, recognizing the what Oracle brings to the table, what she has shown, what she has earned, the spot. It's not that she has to defer to him anymore. It's that she is an equal and an ally and a partner, and he's showing that trust right here. That's why it's pivotal that Bruce Wayne is the one in this particular sequence of storyline events. We've seen some Dick Grayson and Barbara. Let's see some Bruce Wayne and Barbara right here. It's we in Detective Comics we saw some great interaction between Dick and Barbara. I wanted to see Bruce in here, and it's very well handled. I'm glad to see we've seen in different books a great handling of Barbara's relationship with these characters and what it all means. We're back to seeing what's going on inside the head of Dinah, and I do think her recognizing the villain that's doing this to her is now her mind fighting back. I think it's her making sense of what she's seeing around her. Which, is that how you interpreted that when you saw the villain in that piece?
Yeah, definitely. It's, again, this is Black Canary. She's a very disciplined person. She's the focus, and she's got one of the. And when she first got affected, I was saying, yeah, she's going to fight this because she is that cool, because she is that tough. And just this final sequencing when she starts exposing herself and she starts, kind of weakening. I love the fact that, she played the wrong card. She played the card that, oh, you're abandoned by your friends. You're all alone. She's like, no, I'm not. You just messed up there. I know my friends. I know my loved ones. I know they're there for me, kind of deal. And again, it's one of those things where you need that right piece of motivation, the right trigger to fight back. And her trigger to avoid the darkness is her friendship, is her family, is the strength that she gets from her teammates and from her, these close friends of hers.
It also shows that Mortis's powers work off of Mortis coming in at the end game and trying to tie all of the images together to make a conclusion that will ultimately crack the mind permanently. If that trigger isn't the right one, if she makes a mistake in her interpretation, that is the weak spot, the door. And I'm guessing that Mortis hasn't run into this situation before, where she's seen a person that has not only been... I guess Mortis is used to people who haven't come out the other side in the real world, who haven't become stronger because of those around them and sharing those experiences. Dinah and Barbara, and one of the strengths of the Birds of Prey series... from the beginning, the first issue, the first mini-series, when Chuck Dixon was doing it, straight on through to the end of the first series and then this series. One of the strengths of this book has been the relationship between Dinah and Barbara as they grew closer. Seeing that the two of them stepped up each other's game. They made each other more confident. These were two veterans who had been around for a long time who were becoming A-listers. Maybe they always were, but for fans, they were being defined as the A-listers that they are. I firmly feel the need for Birds of Prey is because we need to show that these are characters who are A-list characters. They belong in that light. It's a book that I think showcases the fact that the DC Universe has a lot more A-list characters or upper-tier characters. Forget about the letter of the alphabet because, it's, okay, there's Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, but then you got characters like this who really, to me, help define the DC Universe. If you don't have these characters in your spotlight, you're really diminishing the universe and what's cool about DC heroes. And these are the ones where I'm like, wow, I'm really connecting with them. There's a humanity to them. Sure, they have flaws and weaknesses just like everybody else. But what's cool is, they pull those bootstrings together and, tie the laces and knots, and they get back up and get fighting again. And I love those moments where it's like, whatever happens, there's going to be that moment where it's, let's knuckle down, and get going. And this is a great example of that in these moments. And I love the attention to detail going all the way back. That sequence with her, being, tied up and tortured there goes all the way back to the Green Arrow days. So we're not ignoring any event in Dinah's past. And to me, that's what makes this character stronger, because a moment of extreme weakness for her as a character has now become a strength. That she's grown past it, that those demons are now in her past because she's worked through them, and I love that little attention to detail. That there's nothing left, to chance in this whole sequence. It was cool.
it was funny. Something I noticed, like I didn't really catch it until like the second read through, was that final sequence when she's basically telling her to get out of her brain.
Mm-hmm.
I was so focused on the look of intensity on her face and everything, I didn't notice that the room around her was starting to crumble and come to pieces. So it really was a breakdown of this false world that she had the upper hand on her. I was like, oh, cool, I didn't notice that. That's neat, kind of, with everything falling around her.
And none of it matters if you didn't see how distraught and in turmoil she was earlier on. And to not even just how distraught she was, but also you got Bruce Wayne worried about you. You know, the logic of Bruce Wayne, the logical analysis of the Dark Knight detective. And if he's worried about what's going on with you, it adds, again, upping the game, building to this point. This is where that moment, I'm with you, it just totally mattered to me. It's just a great job on the art in this piece, because you've really got to show some emotion there, because this has to play out like a psychological drama, and it really did. I'm a fan of that too. You know, I've always loved television shows where people have telepathy, and movies, you know, where you get to see them working in the mind. You know, movies like Inception and stuff like that just came out. But before that, I've always been a fan of, you know, those type of shows where you have these kind of battles. It was something I liked in the X-Men, you know, where you'd have Xavier go on the astral plane and, you know, you'd see like whole worlds and rooms created and them fighting battles of the will to see whose mind was strong enough to survive. This is a great example of these type of battles. And you don't get to see it very often with these characters. And it's something, I think there's something cooler about seeing it with a character who's not a telepath like Dinah. You know, seeing her be able to overcome that just over strength of character and strength of will. That was just very cool. Dove, when she turns at that moment and we get to see her do this battle. I like seeing that, you know, there's something about Dove's ability to fight and seeing her in motion. And it's just some poetry out of her in the way that her action is. Because, you know, we're used to seeing characters like Huntress and Lady Blackhawk and Black Canary fighting in this book. But Dove is still, you know, 9 issues in, she's still fairly new to the mix. You know, seeing how she interacts with this team. And this adds a lot more strength to when the team was telling her before, when they were having that, like, intimate moment, that, you know, you belong here. I get you. Yeah. You're my sister now. I'm starting to get where you're coming from here. I liked those moments. And seeing this here again adds to why she belongs on this team and what's working as well. I'm glad to see her here because she adds like a freshness and a flavor to this book. I think, to me, it's stepping up Dove's game, where I'm understanding Hawk and Dove a little bit more.
Yeah, she's really throwing down here, and I like just the commentary running around, you know, going down as she's saying, "Okay, she got him fast, agile too. I guess I underestimated her. Okay, definitely underestimated her. I love just seeing just the combination of power and speed, because you know I always thought that Dove really was more not as not so much the powerhouse, not so much as just I saw her as the anti. I don't want to say anti-powers, but the antithesis of what Hawk is. I see Hawk as the power, the strength, the invulnerability, the power kind of deal. She's more the speed and agility. Well, no, she's got some power on her side as well. So that's definitely a cool play out. But just everything again, just this, the flow through from one panel down to the next, and you really just see just kind of like the grace she has going on in fighting. I thought that was a cool moment.
I'm an idiot. I'm going to tell you why I'm an idiot. I think I was so focused on this one in the combat sequences and then the mental battle of Black Canary. I didn't even realize we just saw the death of Oracle.
Yeah.
I'm a dunce. No, I mean, I knew the helicopter blew up and all that, but I wasn't registering that this was Oracle's plan all along. This was where the death was going to be. And I'm just being honest about it because I think it's funny. Because I'm laughing at it's fun when you make a connection with something in a comic because you were so focused on something else and you go back. This is why I love rereading comics. I bang myself in the head all the time. I get focused on one thing and I'm so busy speculating about that I'll miss the thing that's right in front of my face like this. This is right in front of my face that is playing out right here, this helicopter bit that we just saw the death of Oracle. And the way the team plays it off and sells it is so amazing. Just a very cool ending. And no wonder why Calculator's headache is gone.
Yeah. Well, I like seeing Calculator a little bit discombobulated as well. Because he's just, kind of has that final stress moments throughout all this stuff. And even he comments that normally he would probably handle the situation differently, but you know what? He doesn't have the patience for it. He's just got to get this done. And I thought that, again, is a cool incarnation of Calculator. I want to know what's going to happen next, how they continue the con, because, she's not actually dead because it's Oracle, but where's this going to go next?
Well, and what is in there that's going to make him believe that Oracle's dead?
Well, he got the scan before they blew it up from the shooter.
Right.
Like, scanners say the chopper's manned. It's her. It's Oracle. So he's went into this thinking that it was Oracle.
Right.
So now the next phase of the continuing that she's dead con has to play out.
I love this. I mean, just very well handled. I love that I'm such a dunce that I wasn't realizing what was going on there at the moment. Because I read all that, exactly what you're talking about. My focus in the issue, there was so much going on, I think, in this issue with the psychological drama that I thought was so well played out that I wasn't focusing on the fact that, wait a minute, we just saw the death. We just saw the whole thing come to fruition. And now how cool is that? That's one of the things I love about this title. There's just a lot of really cool stuff going on in every issue that just makes me just thrilled to read it. And it's been a consistency in the series since its inception. I think this is a series that has done very well through writers and has just maintained, I think, just a top-tier level of it. And it's something I recommend for anybody if you're new to Birds of Prey and these 9 issues have been your first exposure to it. There's a lot of the issues available now on the DC Comics app. There's a number of trades available of the series. It's something that's well worth seeking out and reading more of the adventures of these characters and what came beforehand, because it's nonstop excitement. And this type of character development and drama, I do a little rant about it on the website. Actually, I've got a little article where I just do just a quick little blurb about what I love about the birds, and I think that kind of sums it up even more than what I'm saying here at the moment. Just a fantastic book. 9 issues in, and it just doesn't let up.
He is called Hawkman. His gauntlets possess awesome powers.
Hey, this is Daryl, and I just wanted to call and say that I'm going to really miss Rebels and Freedom Force. I just saw the cancellation list, and I know the books don't get the numbers, that a lot of books get, that the books, the successful books need to have to maintain, but I really, really enjoyed those books, and I know that the people writing them, they really love doing the book. The people working on it really love doing the book. I feel bad about JSA All-Stars getting canceled, too, because I know Freddie Williams was enjoying the title also. I couldn't get into it as much. I guess the changes just didn't appeal to me as much as a JSA fan of, the earlier run with Johns and Robinson before him. But it's never good when a book gets canceled, so it is what it is. So, love the show as usual. Love the interview with Freddie Williams. Is great when he's on the show. So that's it. So peace out, fellas.
I hate seeing books canceled, even books that I'm not reading. There's a lot of comics that I'm not able to read right now, financially and time-wise. There's a lot of books that I would love to be enjoying, both Marvel, Dark Horse, Boom, IDW. I could just keep going, as far as comic companies. There's a lot of independents out there that I want to read. The truth of the matter is we all have a limited amount of budget, and you're obviously going to pull books that have the highest interest to you based on your budget. My budget is going to be very different than somebody else's, as far as what are our responsibilities and what other hobbies do we have and things like that. But I never like seeing books canceled. I'm all for more diversity in comics. Would I care if it got to the point where the DC universe was so big and there were so many titles published that I couldn't read them all? No, because then that means that for me as a reader, I get to choose what my absolute best are out of that batch. And that's going to be very different than another reader's. Our interests and tastes are going to be different. And I personally welcome that. It's people always complain when there's too many titles on the shelf, like I can't afford them all. Don't, embrace that. That means that you as a reader have this intense amount of choice, and you can pare down to your best selection through those choices. You can look at all the books and say, you know what? as much as I'd love to be reading all of these, I can make a pull list of the absolute best of what's being published right now. My favorite creators, my favorite characters, my favorite story arcs right now. And if something's not grabbing me, I have the option then to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to shift over this way a little bit and try something else. And keep a couple titles that maybe you're kind of like on the fence about and say, maybe I'm going to make those my flexible slots where I just try for a few months a couple new books each month to see which ones stick for me, which ones, put themselves up on that same spot on my list. So I never have an issue with that. There really, let's be honest right now, there really are across comics. And I'm talking about just DC, across comics. There's a ton of product out there. And I think that's great. I love walking into a comic shop and it being like a candy store of diversity as far as just great titles. If I'm in the mood to try something new, I can pick up a superhero book, I can pick up a Western, I can pick up a science fiction story. There's all kinds, and drama. There's a lot of dramatic stories being put out there in comics. Comics can tell any kind of story, and I want to see more of it. And I don't care if I can't read it all. I'd love to be able to. In a perfect world, I'd love to be independently wealthy, be able to read every comic that's published. But that's just not reality. and hats off to you. There's friends of mine who I marvel at their pull list. And I have, I think, a pretty diverse and heavy pull list myself, as far as I'm pulling a lot of titles when my box comes every week. And, that's for some people what my weekly box is of comics is somebody's monthly pull list. And that's cool. We can all have our own, if you're picking up one title of comic in comics, that's all you can afford. That's your pull list, and enjoy that, and make sure that one title is an awesome one. I don't get this. Sometimes there's people are saying, "Oh, it's just too many titles. They've got to pare down." I'm like, no. Why would you want that? It's the other direction. Want more choice. And I want the industry to be able to support more choice. That's part of the problem right now is we need more readers. We need more people to come into comics and enjoy the hobby. And I want there to be more choice. Let it get to the point where I can't read them all. I don't care. That means for me it's a smorgasbord of, all right, if there's a title that I'm kind of like, you know what, this falls lower on my stack. I'd like to get something that's going to go a little higher up. Then I can do that. So that's kind of my take on it. A little mini rant on diversity in comics and what I want to see. I also want to give a shout out to Whitney Matheson over at USA Today's website, over at the Pop Candy section, which is unwrapping pop culture's hip and hidden treasures. They did a podcast primer, Top 10 Comics Podcasts, and we were number 8. And I just thought that was really cool. I heard about the article a few days before. One of our listeners had made mention that USA Today was doing something. And I'll be honest with you, with us being such a niche podcast, focusing only on DC, I figured we weren't going to make it. But my attitude is anything that promotes comic podcasts in general is good for all of us. We're all part of comics podcasting community. It brings notice to people who aren't already listening to podcasts, who might be saying, wait, I'm a comic fan. I don't listen to podcasts. There's a ton out there for me. So I think it's good for all of us who are podcasters, just any kind of notice. And I want to thank Whitney Matheson and USA Today's website for putting this out there, because I think it's just great notice for podcasts in general, and it's very flattering to be noticed at all. So we put a lot of work into this show, and I really appreciate our listening audience and friends who have supported it. So this was something I was at conferences this week, and Mike Sims, one of our listeners and longtime friends, had sent me an email saying, hey, congratulations on this. And then I noticed later it was on our Facebook page. That was the first I knew of it, and then I was like, whoa, this is kind of cool. So made my whole week. So thank you very much again to Whitney Matheson and USA Today for that cool notice. As podcasters, we do rely heavily on outside notice, and our listening audience and everybody just shouting us out. So you guys on a daily basis, without even realizing, maybe just telling a single friend about comics podcasts in general, whether it's our show or other shows that you're enjoying, you're doing all of us in the podcast community a favor. So I urge you to do that. If you've got favorite podcasts out there you're enjoying, shout them out. Get the word out. We rely heavily on that. That's the way we get new listeners. We don't have like advertising budgets and things like that in most cases. Some podcasts do, but very few of us have that. So you guys doing that, and even the podcasts that do have advertising budgets, you're still helping them out. So anything you're doing to help out those podcasts by drawing in a larger listening audience is really more than we could ever ask for. So thank you very much for your support of our shows, because it's something that means a great deal.
Come on, Squeal. Let's pay these Plutonian beam makers a visit.
Jim, I just want to talk quickly about some of the key points in Generation Lost number 19. We're not going to go crazy into it because I want to talk about Thunder Agents this episode, but this is a series that I've really been enjoying, and this issue had some pivotal events. First of all, with Power Girl. Power Girl's angry. She's come to the realization that Max Lord is alive. And with that realization comes the need for, I need to be a part of bringing him down. The team's telling her that, listen, we have no cred.
Yeah.
You are the only one that can get people to listen to us that Maxwell Lord is running around and alive. I need you to do it. We know Bruce knows, but nobody else does. So this is Power Girl's chance to make a real difference there, because people will listen to her because she's a new player to all this. So maybe she can wake others up. And there's also the I love that it was brought up. What happens if you snack back again? You almost killed us. I like, that kind of thing. And she's like, no, I think I'm pretty solid this time. And I do agree with her. But there's no way they kill Blue Beetle again, right?
Oh, no way. One, they wouldn't do that again. And I'd be really miffed if they did, because I really like Jaime.
Yeah.
But you think about it, there is the battle armor there. Who knows how much the armor is taking, how much, if the armor expands itself out a little bit on the head to give him some headroom kind of deal. I'm thinking there's hundreds of ways they could explain it without him being dead. And the easiest would be that the armor, absorbed the impact and the armor took the damage. And that's, granted, you do see a little bit of blood coming out, but that could be from just a scuff kind of nick thing.
What if it actually did, though, hit him? Can the Scarab heal him?
Could be. Yeah, it could also be a very good explanation on it. Just kind of, it, fuses with him, mends him a little bit, kind of does a little patchwork on him, and boom, he's okay. Or it could be another big change in Jaime's life, that he now has some of this alien tech holding his head together, or part of his brain is being replaced by the, by the Scarab tech kind of deal. So there's a lot of different ways they could go with this, because just because the Scarab in itself is almost a living entity. And I like seeing, that was something I liked from the Blue Beetle series, was his connection with the Scarab, his understanding with it, and they're kind of meshing together, where part of his personality was going into the Scarab, he was learning from the Scarab, vice versa. It was a very symbiotic relationship going on, and seeing it throughout this issue again kind of play out was a cool stuff, where the Scarab starts fighting the restraints that are being held down. The Scarab does the reboot, and we get some glimpses of Jaime as a kid, his past, where he's growing and becoming just his life lessons he's learned that has brought him to the point where you don't quit. Even when you're hurting, even when it's pain, you fight through the pain. And he was fighting through it. The Scarab was fighting through it. I love seeing those two get together, and he has those hero moments, and boom, it ends with a bullet to the head. I'm like, oh man.
I love when he was talking to the Scarab and basically saying, we don't have time for you to be going slow. Can we get a move on with this whole reboot thing? And it was a chance for him to get the signal out, get the heroes there. Just this sense of desperation for Maxwell Lord, too. It added this whole, again, the clock is ticking. How's Lord going to get out of this one? Because he is the ultimate escape artist at this point. And his plan is critical at a critical stage at this point. He's gotten things just about where he wants it to go. Let me ask you this. Do you think Maxwell Lord knows what he did if he's not going to die, with the analysis that Maxwell Lord has done to him, do you think Max knows that this won't kill him, but will delay him?
I would say yes, because I think Max Lord he's a great villain, and he's that guy who thinks 2-3 steps ahead. It's, the chess analogy for him is such a wonderful analogy, because the true chess champions are thinking, 5 moves ahead. You got to constantly, react to what your opponent's doing, but already have your plan laid out for what they're going to do. It's an anticipation of what you're up against and who you're up against. So I would put money that Max knows exactly what he's doing. doing. The bullet to Beetle's head is done as a stalling tactic for the JLI because he wants to slow them down, because you figure a hero sees another hero go down, that's going to be the draw of their attention. That will give him his escape route and give him his opening to get out of there. I think, that's everything here is part of the plan. If not part of the initial plan, it's part of the new plan that he's forming in his head right now.
Jim, I want to, before we wrap up this episode, I want to talk a little bit about Thunder Agents number 4 if we could. It's funny. It's got on the cover from Blair Butler from Fresh Ink, highest possible recommendation. And I echo that. And this is a series I want to talk about just because of, with the cancellation notices for books like, great books like Freedom Fighters, which I would actually post that same label right at the top of Freedom Fighters, and so many of the other titles that I'm really enjoying. This is a book that it falls outside of the norm. And it's, great cover by Ethan Van Sciver and Scott Hanna, and it looks gorgeous, really cool cover. But it's the book that's in there too, with, we got art by Cafu Bit and George Perez in here. I mean, this is super cool in this book, showing a history of the Thunder Agents, in particular the history of the character Dynamo with this Thunderbelt. And, once again, this whole theory, what would you give up to become a hero? Are you willing to take that gamble that you might be the one? We've joked about it on the show, because you even said it at one point in time, and I knew you were being over the top, but I mean, there is that type of part of you that's saying, can I be the one to overcome it? Will I live longer than everybody else? To be a hero, to be that powerful, to, be able to do these things that no other person can do, would I do that? Especially a lot of these people that they're hitting are at, I thought this guy was the traitor, the new Dynamo. The way that they hinted at it, talk about a swerve, a well-done swerve by Nick Spencer. I thought this was going to turn out to be the traitor. And the way they were billing him, where he's kind of a little shady and seedy and, how much do you trust him? They really laid it out even more thickly in this issue, where I was thinking we're leading the road to the reveal. Where the salesman's doing everything he can to sell him on this. Even making it look to the point where, at this point I've had enough of you. You're not worthy of this. You don't deserve this position. Even if you beg me for it now, I wouldn't give it to you. And he's walking away, and it's all under this guise of defending her honor. I loved the way this bit played out, where the salesman was totally selling him on this, and he tells her when she's calling him on it, she's like, I could have hit him. I could have defended myself. You didn't need to do this. Do you think I care about you? You don't understand. I was put in here to close the deal. I'm the salesman. He's going to be following right up behind us. And lo and behold, in the background, what do you see? Him following up right behind. This should have been the first clue to me that this guy might be more than he's telling us. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see it. I love rereading the issue and talking about it now, especially with you, and saying, oh my gosh, the clues have been here all along that this guy might be playing a game that we don't even see yet. I don't know what to believe in this book at this point. Do I believe that the salesman is because we see him in the end with the Mento helmet, that he's the one that stole it and that he put it on. The Menthor helmet, that he's the one that put it on. And he says that it reveals, Spider has only one question. Why did God harden the Pharaoh's heart? So we see now that he all along was positioning himself into that place. I'm taking that we're cutting dry right now. We've got our mole. I'm glad it wasn't a team member, because I think this adds a whole new twist to it.
Yeah, I definitely think this was a nice swerve coming in, especially because you think about how this guy got into the team. He's, as you said, he's just the salesman. He was just the recruiter. And my big question is, when did they get to him? Was it from the very beginning, and the reason they went to him was because there's somebody else inside the organization that led them to this guy? Or was it once he became part of the team, that's when they were able to corrupt him? That's when they were able to get him on their page?
No, I think it was all along, because having him in that position, Jim, here's some of the keys. He knows their weaknesses. He knows them at their core because he was the salesman that brought them in. So they've got the upper hand on the intel by having him in that position. So I think from the get-go, he was always in on it, if you follow me.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And that's definitely a solid, possibility in thinking. But here's the thing. If he was always in on it, the person who initially recruited him, were they also in on it because that's why he was picked?
I don't know, and that's always an open possibility.
Yeah, see, I think we're seeing who the mole is, but I don't think there's just one. I think there's a lot more, there's still more pieces to be revealed. There's still more stuff we're going to learn.
Well, it's who do you trust?
Yeah.
And I loved that whole segue in the whole thing. It does go into the argument when she was asking why he's coming on the, mission, why he's there in the field, because she calls him on that. He's explaining that, he was the salesman, he knows this guy, and all those bits. He puts himself in that position because of all. I love that. I loved his explanation. Again, it added to the whole twist, to the whole dynamic of this whole thing. This is a series that continues to surprise me. We're 4 issues in, and I really feel like I understand the concept of the Thunder Agents. 4 issues in, which is very hard with new characters to get me to have this kind of passionate feeling for the book. Freedom Fighters is actually a very good comparison because these are 2 books right now, newer releases that I'm really digging. Very sad to see that Freedom Fighters is being canceled because of the fact that I feel as strongly about Freedom Fighters as I do about Thunder Agents. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk up this book. And those of you, because I don't know what sales numbers Thunder Agents is doing right now, but it fits this category of some of these 7 titles that have been cut for me. It's a little different, a little off the beaten path. It's telling different kinds of stories in the DC universe, and they're quality stories with great artwork. And I'm glad to see DC continuing to do these experimentations. It's what I liked about The Shield, and you just reminded me that was the book I was thinking of. I've got so many thoughts in my head right now, but that's what I liked about The Shield, was that kind of creativity in that whole universe, and the web, and different types of characters, and showing us the DC universe is big and diverse and rich. Rebels has this feel. It should feel like a universe with a lot of different characters in it. I'm glad that we're not seeing a whole lot of DC guest stars in Thunder Agents right now. I don't know that we need them ever, but if we do get them, I would like to see that wait a little bit while we get more development of this series. Because I don't know that, like Freedom Fighters, I didn't ever feel this need either, that it had to somehow have a whole bunch of DC superheroes coming in. I don't think that would have served the book. I think it would have distracted from what was going on. Because then all of a sudden, especially with the Freedom Fighters MO, for example, of these being missions that nobody else would go under because they're government secrets and things like that, that would be taken away if all of a sudden, but they all know. They're all there. It just kind of defeats the purpose. And I think Thunder Agents, what hero would allow Thunder Agents to continue?
Yeah, for me, Thunder Agents kind of has a really Checkmate kind of vibe.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of CIA type of espionage operation going on. And that's something I'm really digging and getting into on, with Thunder Agents.
Yeah, so just Thunder Agents is just another great series, and if you're not reading it, I highly recommend that you check it out.
Reaching melting point. Not sure we can make it.
All right, Sensei. There was some news this week, and I want to shout out Raphael Sands and also the iFanboy site, ifanboy.com. He shot this article to me, and it confirms that DC canceled 7 ongoing titles. And in March, we're going to see the end of Azrael, Batman Confidential, and Batman Streets of Gotham, which Streets of Gotham was the one in that whole list where I wasn't super shocked, just because with the way that they were doing the layout with the new Bat books, we can start just talking about the Bat books first, and then we'll go to the rest of them, seeing as I'm already going on this tangent. I was kind of assuming that because Dini's scheduling and all that book was going to be ending after this Hush storyline. So I'm not really, because we've talked about that on the show before, I'm not really shocked about that one. Confidential, I'm sad about. I know you aren't reading Confidential, right?
No, I started to, and then it was one of those that... because of finances and because of just time wise, it got cut because of that.
Confidential for me has been that palate cleanser Bat book, the one where it's nice for me. I loved Legends of the Dark Knight, so this to me was kind of a replacement for Legends of the Dark Knight. They were self-contained Batman stories. They felt like they were taking place somewhere in continuity, but they didn't necessarily have to stick with it's today, it's in the past. The creators had a great opportunity to just tell the kind of Batman story they wanted to tell with the characters they wanted to pull in because they weren't stuck to a certain era. It just felt like Batman at the right time in the right place. So, it wasn't uncommon to see characters that maybe aren't running around in Gotham anymore, working in that book, because they could historically go to first meetups with the Joker, the Riddler, any various characters. And that's kind of cool, and I've enjoyed that about the book. Is it my favorite Bat title? No, but is it a Bat title that I was really enjoying? Yes, for what it was. It filled a certain place in my reading library, so I'm sad to see that canceled. I'm a big fan of options. Like, the fact that you said it just didn't fit into your reading library, that's fine. It did fit into mine, and I think it fit into a lot of people's for that kind of spot. And I think it's nice to have choices. I'm always sad to see choices decreased versus increased, because I think comics are all about innovation and creativity and throwing a lot of options out there. So I'm sad to see that canceled, because I thought it was a very interesting book and enjoyable. Azrael, and I'm saving this for last on purpose, because I know you're going to have the same emotional reaction I am to that. What the?
Yeah.
Sales numbers wise, I see it. It's like 7,800 or something for it, which is baffling me, because I figured it being a Bat book, I don't pay a lot of attention to sales numbers, so I will admit that right now. So for fans out there that do, please bear with me on that. I enjoy reading the comics. I enjoy, John Mayo used to do a bit on Comic Geek Speak, and I do listen to the Comic Book Page podcast when he does sales numbers quite often. So that usually is my source for it, and I get behind on other podcasts with recording, but, those end up being my sources of information, and I find it incredibly interesting when somebody who's knowledgeable on sales numbers and very into it disseminates it for me, because it's not something I'm knowledgeable about, nor am I interested in, other than if somebody else is going to say, hey, here's some trends that I think are interesting to talk about on a podcast. And they do it, and it's cool the way that they do it. So I enjoy that type of thing. But, as far as was I following Azrael's sales numbers, I really wasn't. I was just enjoying the book. And I figured as a Bat book, I'm like, really? That's how low the sales numbers were on Azrael? It's a cool book.
I know, and it's taking to a whole new turn. It was just beginning kind of a new era of Azrael, and I was like really looking forward to where this could go to, because one, you have a really cool religious type of story arc going off of there. You got the character who's now pretty much completely different than what he was earlier. He's kind of changed through what he's faced, and it was a great point to jump onto the book, maybe continue on the story. It's that different Bat story for me, but there was still definite ties, definite connections to the Bat universe, to Bat Incorporated. I was like, this was a great book, and I'm really sad to see it go.
Yeah, and you and I were like really getting into it, especially with all the religion and I mean some of the twisted places this book was going. It was really showing us not just a dark side of Gotham, but a dark side of the Bat universe that we don't normally get to see. This character was exploring things that they were lines that Batman had, especially with Batman Inc., because I love that conversation that he had with Azrael in one of the most recent issues. There are certain lines he can't cross with what he's trying to do with Batman Inc. Azrael can, because he's a little outside that. So this was giving him an agent who could kind of go places that he isn't able to because of the public persona that he's giving to Batman Inc. So I'm very sad to see this book going, because I think it's a time where it's fitting very nicely into what's going on in the Batman Inc. universe. And I do urge people, if you haven't been reading Azrael, to pick it up. Pick up the trades. You're in for a good story, a really, really solid, different story. Fabian Nicieza kicked it off. David Hine took it over. And in both cases, really, Michael Lane's a very interesting character. I love that it's got that kind of Da Vinci Code, conspiracy theory kind of thing thrown in there with a DC twist. And it just worked, and I'm very disappointed and sad. In May, Jim, we're losing 14 books. Doom Patrol, Freedom Fighters, JSA All-Stars, and Rebels.
Oh, man.
Now, every single one of those are titles that I'm enjoying immensely. Let me start with Freedom Fighters, and I'll explain why I want to start with that one first. It's too new. How are we canceling this?
Yeah.
It hasn't had a chance to develop a following.
Yeah, this book, man, oh God. The whole newness of it is a big thing that, just gets me. I would say they're jumping the gun. I don't know what the sales numbers are, but I think
I'll tell you right now, it's just under 10,000.
Okay.
It's about 9,400.
I would say if you get rid of some of those other titles, some of those people who are getting those titles would have gone over to Freedom Fighters.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're getting, because you said Rebels and Doom Patrol?
Doom Patrol and JSA All-Stars.
Yeah. People who are reading like Doom Patrol, people who are reading Rebels, if they're not getting Freedom Fighters, that would be a title they may be into, because if I'm making a generalization. If you're reading like Rebels and Doom Patrol, you're probably looking for groups that are outside of the big three, maybe something else, a little bit different take on the hero genre, the superhero, concept. And that's what Freedom Fighters is. It's it's a little bit different take, a little bit different twist on it. So I would think if you get rid of those two, your numbers probably for Freedom Fighters would go up.
Here's one of the things that I'd like people to get out of this segment. If there's anything you get out of this, please, if there's a book you're enjoying, I understand. I agree with everyone's right to critique and be critical of books that they're not enjoying or something they didn't like. Go ahead and do that if that's your thing. I got no problem with that. That's not my experience with comics, but we're all different in how we read, and people know by now where I stand on this type of thing. But what I urge people to do, if there's a book that you're enjoying, please don't ever think a book is safe. Get out there and let people know why you're enjoying it. People are always looking for new books to jump on, new books to try. Maybe, in their pull list, there's 2 or 3 titles that, maybe they're not digging. And for whatever reason, point them to some of these titles that you're enjoying that you think maybe they're missing. Because, when I see books like this being canceled, I think first of all, the team books I just ran off, all 4 of them were very unique titles. They're all different in their own way. Doom Patrol, I think, I've enjoyed Doom Patrol all along. I think it's kicked up a notch since they booted the Chief. Because we've seen a lot of, in the road to booting out the Chief, we saw a lot more spotlights on each of the individual players on the team. There were some amazing bits with Elastigirl, some amazing bits with the Negative Man. I think we're really getting to know who these characters are in seeing them take on this new life as more independent from him. And it's a wacky book. It's a fun book. They go places that you can't go with any other team. And I'm really sad to see that canceled, because I do think it's a book where a status quo change has just happened recently that I think has only improved the book. I was already enjoying it, but it then kicked it up a notch. It's gone to a new level. And books will do that. And it's one of those that I really feel sad that it's going now, when I think it's just gone to the next level. I'm thrilled that I've been able to enjoy it as long as I have, because I think it's been a great run. And it's really helped me to grab a love and interest for the Doom Patrol in a way that I never have. So I'm sad to see that one go for just that reason. Freedom Fighters, just to talk back again about what I like about that book, I love this whole bit that's been going on with it, with the idea that there's these weapons that have been hidden for years through these secret societies that now all of a sudden they're trying to bring these weapons out and use them against America, to the point where they're willing to blackmail, take vice presidents hostage, things like that. And they need a specific team, a specific group to go after these things, because they're things that are under the radar of your normal superheroes. They're doing other things. They're, it's more cosmic, big whole universe, things that are more above ground, bright and in your face, those type of threats. These are things that are under the radar. They wouldn't have time to see and be a part of. And I love that they're telling these type of stories. It's a little bit grittier. It's a team that from time to time, you don't know whether or not people are going to survive. I do think there's a lot of people that are potentially, quote-unquote, expendable on the team. You don't know. But it is something where, the book was giving me a charge and a flavor that I haven't felt in quite some time in a book. It was going in some different directions, and I'm really sad to see that go because of, the content of that book. All-Stars, Jim, sales numbers for All-Stars, 17,920. Now, okay, what is the cutoff?
That sounds good to me.
Yeah, it does to me as well. Because, okay, is it the highest selling book? No, but that's still, almost 18,000 people are reading it.
And again, same argument I did before on Freedom Fighters. Mm-hmm. If you're getting rid of a bunch of titles, I could see people who've lost titles would start looking at other things, and maybe All Stars is something they would pick up. This could be, again, any one of these titles could have benefited from the fact that a bunch of titles are getting canceled. I think they're doing a massive clearing, and I don't think you need to do a full massive clearing. I think they could have gone spot, boom, 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 see where it goes, and then maybe just make a decision to take out the other ones. If there was no benefit from the cutting, then sure, maybe clip a couple more. But I think, just doing this massive boom, I don't know. I disagree with it.
Rebels. What can I say about Rebels? It's a title that has gone to places in the DC cosmic universe, and the political drama and intrigue. I've talked about my love for Tony Bedard's Valiant work multiple times on the show. The stuff he was doing over in Magnus and Rye, very similar to this. Lots of high action, lots of cosmic battles and things like that, but also the politics of different races and the hates between different races. How do you prevent wars? Is it always combat? Well, no, sometimes it's bargaining. And sometimes it's bargaining at the last minute when the big giant weapon is staring you down in your face. And here's the twist, though. While all this political intrigue and drama is going on, a lot of times a big bad will come in and take advantage of it to take control of everything. Brainiac was a great example when he was in. And I'm not talking about, our Brainiac... Vildox, I'm talking about the Brainiac, the first Brainiac comes in and he will take advantage of it, and you get to see this great, and you've got Starro the Conqueror who takes advantage of this stuff. Just some great villains. I'm going to recommend, again, if you have never read Rebels, you need to start picking up the collections, particularly if you're picking up single issues. Start with the Starro Annual and pick up this book. It's so well written. It does things. If you're a Green Lantern fan, I'm baffled if you haven't at least given Rebels a shot. Maybe you tried it and it wasn't your cup of tea, and if it was, cool that you tried it. I think that's neat that you're trying a new title or something. These are titles, though, on the good side of it, and it's something I want to commend DC with. Looking at the sales numbers of some of the books, I can see that DC gave these books a shot and probably gave them a shot for a long time to try and see if they would stick. So I want to commend them for it, because some of them had very nice long runs and obviously had sales numbers where you can say, okay, we're skirting the line here, especially when you're under 10,000, like in Doom Patrol. Freedom Fighters, again, I'm going to go with, whoa. So I'm guessing that 10,000 mark is like the kiss of death. Anything there and below is like for sure a kiss of death. I'm sad to see that happening with those titles. I am guessing this is going to make some room for some launching of some new books, which we're probably going to see post Flashpoint. Yeah. Which I'm not against that, because usually when there's a launch of new titles, you're going to get some more of these innovative titles back. Not saying these same books, but you're going to get new books that explore different characters, so I'm excited for that. Just some of these books in particular, I've really grown to love. I feel about a lot of these titles the same way I felt when All New Adam was canceled. The same way I felt when Blue Beetle was canceled. Manhunter was canceled. I applaud DC in all three of those cases for Vigilante. Yeah. In 4 of those cases now, for just giving those books a shot, giving them a decent enough run, and continuing to do this. So I don't want to make it seem like, I'm gloom and doom or anything like that. I applaud DC for continuing to try these innovative titles. I'm just really, as a fan of these books, I think what you're hearing here more than anything, it's not me saying, oh, DC bad, let's go, pick it. I don't mean it that way. I'm sad for the creators who have done these books, the art teams that have done these books, editorial who is behind these books, because I think they really delivered a great product. And this is kind of for fans who like to get things in collections that maybe they never read, like to pick up things in back issue bins and stuff. These are titles that if you were missing these, do yourself a favor and start seeking some of them out, because there's a lot of really cool, innovative things that were going on in these books, and I'm sad to see them go. We don't get to talk about this very much on the show, and I thought it was an interesting segment to make sure we put on this episode because of this. And I think I want to thank Raphael Sands, and also I want to shout out ifanboy.com, where this was originally posted. This was their article. And I do have a link to this on ragingbullets.com, the article, and I put some of my own thoughts on there as well, which I did a couple rants this week that I put on the website under the Biting the Bullet heading, which you'll see right on the front of the page. Just because I needed to really kind of chat some comics, so if I did it up on the website. But go and check this out, and I think it's kind of interesting, to see when that happens. And I do, once again, I applaud DC for exploring some of these innovative titles. Solo is a book I want to actually shout out that didn't make it, that I thought was very innovative. They had a different artist who was featured every issue. And all the stories in there were short stories in an anthology style, kind of like Weird Worlds, that were put together by that artist for that issue. So everything was very contained in one issue. And that's another series that I'd say that was canceled. Innovative, kind of like a lot of these titles that people should seek out. So I just kind of wanted to do a little ranting at the beginning with you, and just to get kind of your reaction. Is there a title on there, or some titles on there? I don't know if it's even fair. I think you're liking these titles as much as I am.
Yeah. Well, the JSA All-Stars, that does I am upset to see that one go. Because, that's one, wondering what's going to happen now to the JSA title. How many of the teams going to get moved back there? That was a team that was in turmoil. They got settled. Everything was groovy. They're moving on. They're doing what they're doing. And now we're going to have another turmoil. We're going to have another change in the team. And I wish we could just lock in straight. Just have I like the two separate teams, and I don't know. That's why I'm really wondering what's going to happen to the remaining JSA title,
and who's going to be the leader.
Yeah, and
because Power Girl as a leader is something I've been really enjoying.
Yeah.
So I don't know but on the flip side, I like Mr. Terrific as a leader. I like, is it going to be Jay Garrick, Alan Scott on the other end? I don't know. It does offer the option that if this team is going to be folded back in for maybe perhaps Power Girl with what's going on with Mr. Terrific, for example, in that book, to perhaps take leadership of the JSA proper. Is that something that could potentially come out of this? I don't know. I'm curious to see where this is going to go. I'm just hoping that some of the characters that have been so richly developed in All-Stars don't get lost.
Yeah.
That would be my only concern. If they're looking to do that, don't, for us, those of us that have been fans of All-Stars, because there's a pretty decent number count on that. And, I know what comic sales are at now, and I'm, reasonable about, that we can't keep every title, and once titles drop below a certain point, we need to try new things to hopefully drum up sales numbers. So I get it, and I'm reasonable about that. But, a book that I'm enjoying like All-Stars, and a team that I agree with your sentiments exactly, that has finally evolved in this point, I'd like to see them wind up somewhere. These are books, this is a great example of, if some of these don't stick, look at the sales numbers of them and say, well, what if we did these in like a larger anthology title? Or even, do a Weird Worlds where it's a $2.99 book, and do short stories with these where it's a longer form, like maybe what you would do in 2 issues of Freedom Fighters, you do in 5 of an anthology, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And, put this together with like Freedom Fighters, Rebels, and Doom Patrol, and make it a team book anthology. Where those 3 teams could be together in a book, and there's a little something for everybody in there in a different way to get exposed. Or, have JSA All-Stars be the lead off of that. And, again, do it anthology style. I don't know. I don't know if that would work or not, but, I'm hoping these teams wind up somewhere, and these characters wind up somewhere. And more importantly, I'm hoping these creative teams who did such a great job on these books wind up on new projects soon. That we get to see them. Obviously, we know where Tony Bedard is as far as with what's going on with the Green Lantern universe.
Yeah.
But, I'd like to see him on another book because I'm really enjoying his work. Gray and Palmiotti. I love Jonah Hex, loved Freedom Fighters. Would love to see them go on to another work. There was Rob Schwager, who was doing the color work on that, is doing color work on Jonah Hex as well. I'd love to see him, on another book as well with them. It just seemed to be a great relationship. All-Stars team, obviously. I love Matthew Sturgis's Vertigo work. I loved Shadowpack. A great example of another book that was no longer with us. I just want to see those teams be able to go on. So I think for me, more so, Keith Giffen, Matthew Clark, I want to see, these creators, David Hine, go on to new books. David Hine I'm loving right now in The Spirit. So I'm hoping to see him get something else, because The Spirit, I think, is, whoa. Boy, are you still, the most recent issue of The Spirit, wasn't that great?
Yeah.
Another book that I think is just working. So I'm just hoping we see them elsewhere. And that's kind of more, not only the characters, but the creators. Because that becomes my concern as well, because they seem to have spoken to me. obviously, that I would even care to do a rant like this. For longtime listeners out there, you know that I'm a teacher, and this week is my conferences week, so I had to do a lot of preparation for that. So it was a mad scramble this week, making sure that Jim and I got together and recorded and got an episode out for you guys. So we were really focusing on that. I didn't have a chance to put up the contest entries yet, and those are going to be going up this week. I'm getting caught up on some of the things for the show that fall a little outside of the regular recording, and those will all be up this week. So quick apology to those winners. I will be contacting you this week and getting all that sorted out, so thank you very much for your patience and understanding. I wasn't thinking when I put an end to the contest right around when I was getting ready for conferences and, of course, report cards. So it just became a crazy couple weeks for me. So thank you very much for your understanding, and things are getting back to normal now so I can get to some of the extras that I like doing for the show. There is a poll up on the website right now, and if you haven't had a chance to check it out, the poll is, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this or not, but I've seen some podcasts that have apps, for smartphones and all that. And it is an option that we have through Liberated Syndication, who we're published through, to have an app. I'm just doing a climate survey to see what people's interests are. There's a poll up on RagingBullets.com. Check it out. If you're interested, I'm really taking a look at where you fall. Are you in the category of, I'd really love an app, it'd be very convenient for me? If there's one there, fine, I have that option as well. And then I just don't care about an app. I'm fine getting the show the way it is. It doesn't guarantee that we're going to do an app, but I'm interested always in what my listening audience could use and what would make their experience better. If it's something that we can provide without compromising the show in any way, I would gladly do it. I do know when I was looking at some of the features for an app, I think we do have to provide like an exclusive content to the app for a certain amount of time, which we would certainly gladly do. It wouldn't take away from the show anyway. We'd do like a small, maybe like half-hour thing that we would put on the app that we'd obviously produce and put together, make it cool for people who did it. I know the apps, the iTunes apps, I believe it's $1.99 is the minimum we have to charge for it, $1.99, which whatever the minimum is what I would charge. I'm not looking to make money off of our listeners with the app. It's really an issue of convenience if we were to go that route. So we would charge whatever the absolute minimum is for it. I would put it out for free if I could. We don't have that option. We have to charge something for it. So it would be whatever the minimum is. So let us know your interest. If you are interested in an app, it's worth it to me to pursue it, to see if it's something we can do. And if you're not, put that on there as well, because that's helpful for me. So just kind of let us know where you fall, and thank you for taking the time to go to the website and do that.
Hope this craft can withstand this powerful force.
I want to remind everyone about the C2E2 convention. It's March 18th, 19th, and 20th in Chicago. This is going to be the second C2E2 convention, but it also is a landmark because March 23rd is going to be a celebration of 5 years of Raging Bullets. We've done this show for 5 full years now, and we'd love to celebrate with you. Whether you're a long-time listener or a newer listener, please come by, stop by the table, say hello. We'd love to meet you. It's one of the great things about this convention. So Podcast Arena, check us out there. We will have representation at the show all weekend long, so please make sure to stop by and see us for our 5th anniversary. Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. We're supporting Thunder Agents, Thunder Agents number 6. Regularly $2.99 at DCBService.com, 40% off only $1.79. It's a great chance to try a new book at a very cool discount. Over at InStockTrades.com, be sure to check out the Thunder Agents Archives Volume 2. Regularly $49.95, 38% off only $30.97. The Thunder Agents, the secret team of super technology-powered policemen, return in the second Archives volume, reprinting Thunder Agents 5 through 7. And Dynamo number 1, with an introduction by film producer Michael Uzlan and noted comics historian Robert Klein. So definitely check out Thunder Agents Archives, and I want to thank DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support Raging Bullets. Jim? First of all, I want to thank you. You've got some family coming in this weekend, so we're actually recording very, very close to when we released our last episode. So thank you for finding some time to sneak us in this week so we have an episode out for our listeners. It was fun to kind of just get together with you and just casually talk some comics that we were enjoying from the past couple weeks. It was funny. We could have kept going because there's so many books that we have to discuss. I have conferences tomorrow, so this was our only night, our one night that we had in common on Wednesday, that we had a chance to really talk about the books that have come out the past couple weeks, and just some great releases from DC to chat about. Our next episode, I think we're going to continue a little bit more of the same, including obviously some books that are going to be released this week that we haven't had a chance to read yet because we'll get getting our books tomorrow. So we will see everyone next week.
Bye.
Flying through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Faded for love and flaws and incredibly clear sightlines. Swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook. Helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman. The villains are closing in, be they Thenengard or Egyptian. Working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up. Things would be so much easier